Welcome to the Winning Family Podcast with Rodney and Michelle Gage. This is a podcast designed to help you build winning relationships in your marriage and with your kids. I'm Dr. Linda Travelute, and sitting across the table from me are Rodney and Michelle Gage.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Linda.
Linda,
Hello.
thank you for being the host
Yes.
of the greatest host of all time. How about that?
Of the greatest podcast of all
Yes.
time, right?
That's what I'm talking
Climbing
about.
the ranks of iTunes and wherever else you find your podcasts, maybe YouTube as well. And speaking of which, we would love for you to rate and review this podcast. That will help us greatly. And leave some comments, right? We like to see what's happening out there.
Absolutely.
Are you enjoying the content? Is it hitting home? Is it helping you? And then two, Rodney and Michelle would love to engage with you. The Gages would like to engage with you via
right.
DM, right? On Instagram and Facebook. You can check them out at The Winning Family. Let them know what you'd like to hear about. Ask them questions. They are fantastic mentors and would love to help you. Yes?
Yes.
you. 100%.
We'd love it. Absolutely.
right.
Well, we're going to talk about why your approach to parenting matters today. This is a hot topic. Lots of parents are wondering how to approach parenting the right way. So let's break this down. This is going to be super helpful.
It's confusing, right?
It is a bit, right? Just a
I
tad
hear
bit.
people talking, about parenting all over the place. You just hear people conversing about it. It's like the ant inside the yo-yo. It's a little confusing up and down and all around. There's so many thoughts
There are.
and perspectives.
Yeah.
on
Should you
this.
spank? Should you not spank?
Yeah.
Should you have a curfew? Should you not? I don't know if that's where you're going, but that's where my mind's.
All kinds of
Right?
things.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
should
Might
a
get me
2-year-old
on
make
my
all of its own choices?
Soapbox on this one.
I'm even thinking about the times I'm standing in line at the store and I see a parent just do something outrageous with their 2-year-old, and I'm like, oh no, don't approach it like that.
Yeah.
Help us
Yeah.
out. Help us out today.
Let's do
Well, I think, I think there is a lot of confusion, and there's obviously tons of questions. But I mean, I think if you could kind of, I don't know, categorize 4 types of parents, maybe just for our conversation today, I think if you could categorize 4 groupings or types of parents out there in the world, I think you would probably find one of these 4, seen, and we've all witnessed these in one way or another. But I do think there is one out of these 4 is more of the ideal that we should strive, for. But yeah, let's unpack some of these. And these aren't just our opinions. This is studies, research has been done throughout the years. Clinical psychologists, which you are, by the way. So actually, you probably should be taking the lead on this one. But I think there's been all forms of studies that have been conducted just based on what is helpful, what is hurtful, and a lot of the patterns that we, I guess in many ways by default, fall into. Most of the time is because of what we've seen or how we were raised growing up as kids.
Yeah.
So we're more likely to repeat the behaviors, the perspective, the approach of the way we were parented. And whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, I mean, at the end of the day, we are going to mimic a lot of what just comes natural based on what we've experienced. And so if our parents were a certain way, then we're going to probably do a lot of those things a certain way with our kids. And so again, I think it's a matter of us understanding what's healthy and what is not healthy, what's productive, what's unproductive. And if our goal is to raise healthy, secure kids that are secure in who they are, in not just the Lord, but just in their own identity and confidence, so that they are able to live in a sense of freedom rather than living in fear or living in some mindset of I don't know, just if anything, maybe just the inferiority of, that they can't measure up or they can't succeed based on certain limitations they have. Well, we want to break all of that down and try to help just kind of walk through some things that we can do to maybe get on the path that allows us to raise healthy, godly, secure kids. So, yeah, one of those is the phrase or term that's often used as permissive parenting. And we see this. So let me just put this. So if you ever been on an airplane and you get that kid who's just like kicking the seat behind you. And I mean, for like nonstop, just that rude, obnoxious, annoying kid that's just kicking the seat. Well, the parent seated next to him just allows it to continue to go on and on and on. That's the permissive parent. That's the one who warns 15 times, if you don't do this, then you're not going to get to do that. Don't make me count to 3 or you're going to, and then they count to 25, giving them chance after chance. And it's just like, at what point do they draw the line?
Right. Right.
So that's pretty much a free-spirited, anything goes, the kid can do whatever they want to do. And we see that a lot in our culture today. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of kids, the reason why they struggle with boundaries is because they've never been given boundaries in their life, or have never seen boundaries really carried out from the standpoint of being established in their home. Right. So
what's so difficult about that, being played out over the years, is that kids need boundaries to feel secure.
Yes.
They need to know where the boundaries are. When I go outside those boundaries, there's pain with the choice that I'm making. They need, our parents need so much to communicate those boundaries, because they're communicating love. They're saying, I love you.
That's right.
When I show you these boundaries and I hold you accountable to these boundaries, and there's consequences outside the boundaries that I enforce as a parent that says, I love you and I don't want you to get hurt.
That's right.
So I'm going to show you where the lines are. It's like the old Etch-a-Sketch is with the permissive parent. I've heard you say before, it's like the old Etch-a-Sketch. You draw the lines, but then when they shake them, you shake it and it's gone the next day,
So
and we think that we want to be our kids' best friend and that we can be their best friend by being permissive with them. But it's actually the opposite. When they become teenagers, they become angry.
Yes.
They become violent.
Yes.
If they haven't had some boundaries and been shown the way. And that is a devastating thing to a parent.
Absolutely.
So I highly encourage that you go the opposite direction of this one.
Yeah. And I had a situation one time where I was talking to a girl who was witnessing and listening to a boy that I was also talking with. So it was 2 of these young people together, a girl and a boy. And the boy was going off on his parents about how strict they were. He can't do this, he can't go there. They're always riding him about this or that. And so he was kind of like venting on the fact that they were like just seemingly like very controlling. But then on the flip side of that, she was hearing him kind of voice those concerns or voice those sentiments from the standpoint of his frustration or anger. And then she spoke up and she said, I just wish I had parents who cared enough to even notice that I exist.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And what blew my mind on that is like, it's almost like here you have 2 extremes. And where she was coming from, it's like my parents just let me do whatever I want to do. But it's almost because they are so busy with their lives, and it's almost they don't even care.
Right.
So there are so many extremes. But again, this is the permissive lifestyle where it's like what's okay one day is suddenly not okay the next day. And so there's inconsistencies. It brings confusion. One day something's right, the next day something's wrong. And so it's just, we have to realize that in today's world and culture, I think the previous generation or the current generation, it's like, okay, well, everybody's going to get a trophy on the team. Everybody's a winner. Let's celebrate everybody. But what's happening is that it brings confusion to identity. It brings confusion when it comes to boundaries. So permissive parenting may be something that a lot of parents choose to do because maybe either their own fear and insecurity, or it potentially could be, well, I don't want to drive my son and my daughter away by enforcing certain things because I want them to like me. You know, I want them to accept me, and I want them to not think bad of me. So therefore, they lower the standard,
Right.
thinking that that's going to win their kids over, when in reality, it has an adverse effect.
Yes. Yes.
So that's
Yes.
where permissive parenting can get very confusing and unhealthy, you know, in the long run.
Yeah. In fact, studies show that parents who lack boundaries, their children end up feeling insecure.
Yes.
Insecure.
Right.
Absolutely.
Where parents would think it's the opposite around. So what you're saying is boundaries really do communicate love, and boundaries create a very secure young person or child, right?
Absolutely.
So that's
Can
so
you
important.
imagine, like, when you're on top of a skyscraper and you have like the glass or the plexiglass strong walls that are protecting you? If you don't know where that's at, and how insecure you would feel looking over the edge, you know, into this world as a child, they need to know where their boundaries are.
Yep. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, and the second area or term that's often used is the uninvolved parent. So obviously, and this is interesting that studies show. In fact, studiesfinds.org actually did a study and determined that the average parent will spend less than 5 hours per week in face-to-face time or conversation with their kids. And so when you think about that, that's staggering to me. And I think the problem is that it's almost like it's the parents who are there. So even so, like in today's world where so many people have home offices, they're they're traveling maybe due to their work, or whatever the challenge might be. But the point is that everybody's busy. Time is a precious commodity for everybody. So our worlds are being pulled more and more apart. And the problem is that a lot of times, without even realizing it, we become detached and unengaged or disengaged, not just from being in the physical presence of our kids, but even in the emotional connection with our kids. And so it's one thing to be around our kids, but not necessarily be engaged emotionally with our kids, entering into their world, and so I always encourage parents, it's the old adage, love is spelled Time. And so we have to make time. We have to make that a priority. We have to be intentional. We have to make space so that our kids know that we value them. We prioritize them over anything, outside of our marriage relationship. We have to make our children the highest and most important priority. And I know that most parents probably that are listening to this, that is where they are. Their children are their highest, most important priority. But at the end of the day, how much conversation is going on?
Right.
How engaged are you in your child's world? Not just the do's and the don'ts and the chores and make sure you get your homework and all of those kind of things. It's more of like, tell me what's going on with your friends.
Right.
Tell me
Next
who
level
who are your friends?
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, their family. Tell me a little bit about what are some of the things that they're involved in. What do they do? Just start learning more about what your children's interests are.
Right.
Do you even know what they enjoy doing?
Right.
What are they passionate about? So again, it's the old quality time versus quantity time argument. Well, the way I look at that, the more quantity times you invest into the relationship, the more quality times are going to be manifested from that relationship.
Yes.
So again, it's that uninvolved, it's just the detached,
It's so easy to happen in our world with the device in our hands and the little white things in our ears,
Right.
and our ear pods, AirPods, whatever they're called. Sorry, I enjoy them when I'm on my walk. But when our kids are sitting at the table at dinner with us with their AirPods in their ears, that's not, we're not having conversation at that point. And, setting some boundaries on those digital devices too. And, so much to talk about right there.
Yeah. I one of the things that I see all the time, this is one of my pet peeves. and I'm just going to be
I
very,
think
very,
we're on soapboxes.
very, very candid, and I'm speaking the truth in love with parents, especially parents who have young kids. I can't tell you how many times I go to a restaurant and the kids are totally engrossed in they got their iPad.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've got multiple kids, they got multiple iPads. They're all seated at the table or at the booth. And the kids are totally engaged and engrossed in their computer games or iPads, apps or whatever they're doing. And so in many ways, what that communicates is the parents are like, y'all stay over here and don't bother us. And rather than saying, no, we're going to learn how to have conversations, and rather being in control of the situation and the conversations, we want to invite our kids into our world, and we want to step into their world and leverage that as much as we possibly can. The third area or category a lot of times you might find is what's referred to as the authoritative or authoritarian, if you will. It's the authoritarian parent, and that's the that's the drill sergeant. It's all rules. They're very rigid. It's do things a certain way. If you don't, you're getting in trouble. There's just the focus is really more on the consequences of behavior or standards or whatever. And the problem with that approach, again, it breeds insecurity, fear. We may get short-term compliance, but it creates a long-term animosity, resentment, anger, in the relationship. And it's like the old saying, rules without a relationship will lead to rebellion. But a relationship along with rules over time will win respect.
Yes.
And so I think, again, the authoritarian of the demands, of what we place on our children with these high standards, sometimes they're not fair or realistic or obtainable, but yet they're being enforced. And so, again, it goes back to understanding, what is the parent's motivation behind that authoritative kind of approach? Is it out of their own insecurity? Is it out of, maybe their fear of losing control? So again, there's a lot of underlying motivations that I think are toxic and unhealthy and only breeds fear and insecurity in the lives of our kids. But I think, again, as we shared at the very beginning, there are 4 most common types or categories. 3 are not very productive. And I think there's 1 that should be the goal that we should obtain to strive towards, and that is what's referred to as the authoritative. So again, there's a difference between the authoritative and authoritarian.
Yes.
And the authoritative is really more of a balance of what is referred to as love and limits. So yes, we are practicing tough love, but at the same time, we have put boundaries and limits so that our kids are understanding what is right and what is wrong, what is acceptable, what is unacceptable. And what we're doing is we're helping them build character through what it is that we are modeling for them. So it's not just do as I say, but no, we're going to together, we're going to live a life that is truly honoring of the Lord and honoring of each other. And we're going to show respect toward one another. And as a result, this is how we're going to treat other people as well in the process. And what that does is that it begins to build those boundaries. It begins to build character. It begins to give kids a sense of what is right and what is wrong. There's rewards. I always often say, what gets rewarded gets repeated.
Right.
And so when we highlight and we spotlight and we reward good behavior, when we see our kids living out certain values, when they do things well, we recognize that. We affirm that. We really encourage them in the process. But at the same time, when they step outside of those boundaries, there are consequences that have to be enforced. And it's not because we want their life to be miserable, but it's because we love them enough, we care for them enough that we don't want to see them also make choices that's going to, in the long term, bring ruin or destruction to their life.
Right.
So this is much easier said than done.
100%.
But with our experience and walking through this journey with a lot of parents and families out there who didn't maybe have the fortunate blessings of being raised in a really solid, healthy, functional family, which a lot of people today are like, I don't even know what that looks like.
Right.
But it's possible. And with God's help and by starting over and building, those building blocks and that foundation, man, it's amazing how kids respond to that love and to the limits that they're craving for. And I think one of the main reasons why we are seeing what we're seeing today with so many issues and challenges that bring a lot of concern or panic to a lot of parents when it comes to the stuff kids are into and the behaviors they're displaying, it's because they're just looking for guidance and for direction.
Right.
They're looking to have a sense of security and purpose to their life. And so that's where we come in as parents. We have to help navigate that. We can't defer that to someone else. Can't expect the teacher, the coach, or even the youth pastor at church or anybody else to do that for us. Those are supplemental, parts of their journey. But at the same time, we've got to be the primary voice that is speaking into their lives. And that voice is a voice of love. It's a voice of truth. And it's that guiding voice that our children know is a voice they can trust. It's a voice that they respect and that they're listening to.
That's right. That's right. And I would encourage you, I want to encourage you in this as well, because it's like you're driving a car down the road and you're trying to keep it on the road. And, sometimes it wants to shimmy to the right or to the left. And you're trying to hold on to that steering wheel and keep it on the road. And I just want to encourage you because we've been down that road. We've raised our kids. We have our youngest is 22 now. And so we've walked through each of these different ones that, you kind of slide to one or the other sometimes. You're not always perfect. You don't always get it right. But I just want you to know, just pray that God will give you wisdom, that Jesus will take the wheel for you because he can and he will. And he'll give you wisdom and guidance and direction to be that kind of a authoritative parent. That's the kind of parent he is to us. He's our Heavenly Father. Right. He's the perfect example for us. And he loves us and he guides us just as a shepherd would guide his sheep. You want to keep them together and you don't want one to go off. But if they go off, you're going to go help them come back inside the sheepfold. Right. He loves us, and that's the kind of parent we want to be. I just want to encourage you just to pray. God's going to help you through this.
That's right. And if you'd like to go deeper into learning how to be a more authoritative parent with love and limits, Rodney and Michelle have an incredible mentoring program that can help you do just that. So we want to encourage you to go to thedoublewin.club.com. That's thedoublewin.club.com and sign up for their mentoring program. You can actually get 30 days free. Test it. Take it for a test drive. You're talking about test drives, Michelle, right? Take it for a test drive. And then if you determine, hey, it's not helpful, which I doubt, you can unsubscribe, right? There's no pressure. Right. And you can also get a copy of Rodney's new book, The Double Win. So that is a great resource to keep in your toolbox.
That's
Anything
right.
else?
They can also sign up there at thewinningfamily.com or thedoublewin.club.com to receive our weekly blog as well that we send out. So, and a part of the Double Win Club is the winning word that they get every single week in their inbox as well, which is so much fun. But it's a word to focus on every week that really helps you when you have something to focus on, especially when you're going through a challenging season as a parent. If you can just keep your mind and your heart and your eyes focused, it's really helpful.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you. This has been an incredible podcast episode. Has been so helpful. And we want to encourage the podcast listeners and viewers to rate and review and share and connect with Rodney and Michelle on Instagram and Facebook at The Winning Family. And they will respond. They will listen to you. They will answer your questions. So don't be afraid to DM them and ask questions. And you may just hear more subject matter on the question that you posed to them, because that's great content for the podcast, right?
And you know what? I got a great song idea.
Okay.
You should write a song called Jesus Take the Wheel. I guarantee it'll be a hit.
Oh, you know what? I'll check into that. I'll talk to my son.
Very good. We might just
Okay.
have Luke sing on the podcast one day, right? Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.